Also, stay away from areas prone to landslides, low-lying coastal areas, lakes and streams that lead to the ocean. Do not head for the coast until local authorities tell you that the danger of a tsunami has passed. Curiosity can kill.
This message is sponsored by the Australian Government, AusAid, and produced by NEMA in collaboration with WINN FM.
We are live. Thank you to everybody that's tapped in. Today is Sunday, December 4th, and you are listening to the He Nuh Show on WINN Media 98.9. As usual, we are live streaming on YouTube, on Facebook, and on the Instagram. I've noticed that a lot of persons still haven't tapped into the Instagram. Add us now, man. Stop good style. Move like the thing lit. We are in December, and recently we have just witnessed what is the launching of Carnival.
Yes, sir.
This is what, Carnival 51?
Yeah.
Carnival 51. Fresh off of the COVID-19 pandemic. So it is our first Carnival since being locked down for 2 years. And all of the shows are looking crazy.
Yeah.
You saw the launch?
Yeah, I actually was at the launch. The launch was really, really, really good. And the Carnival has this theme that you should be here.
Right.
And I think they're living up to that right now.
Bro, the excitement, the atmosphere surrounding it, what I've seen so far, if they could maintain that over the entire duration.
Yeah, it's going to be epic.
And I mean, it is projected to be the biggest, right? Because there's been that pent-up frustration, people just ready to fet, essentially. And, I mean, it's going to be crazy. I saw the thing that was circulating in the feeds, in the statuses, in relation to the Caribbean talented teen pageant.
Yeah.
Bro, I am thoroughly impressed by the young ladies.
Yeah, I mean, even at the opening as well, I was impressed. They really sound like strong, they sound really strong competitors in that field. And
it's interesting, I had some conversations with a few girls recently, and what they were saying to me is, Caribbean talented teen look like it's the show this year.
Yeah, that's a show to go to.
It looks like it's the show. But I mean, they also launched the girls for
Miss St. Kitts.
Yeah. And so that again is, one of the biggest pageants.
Yeah, but you know what? I've been to like 2 events, so I don't even want to downplay them and skip too fast. Like I've been to the award show. They had an award ceremony, and the award ceremony was really good.
Okay.
Really, really good. In terms of like getting to know some of the history. Like you see some of the old Calypsonians, the queens and stuff like that. Because a bunch of like past queens, they sent like videos and stuff like that. That was really cool. And then fast forward now to the launch. The launch was really, really good.
What I would say is the Carnival Committee, we have to applaud them.
Yeah, definitely.
Because the work that they've done up to this point, it's impeccable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're billing the hype. The thing look like you're going to be sick.
And they had it in Carnival Village, right? And Carnival Village for me has always been some venue that's underused. Right. But when I was in that space for the launch,
nostalgia.
Like the old vibe of, you know what I mean? Because everybody like shoulder to shoulder, and you could feel the energy, like the crowd going wild and stuff like that. It reminded me like way back, you know what I mean? Like when you used to go to Carnival Village and you see like a show, it was almost like the show was happening right there.
Yeah.
It was really good, man.
Yeah.
Really impressed with all the colors, the dancing, everything.
The energy all the way up. The organizing committees, I mean, again, we tip we hat to them because they're doing an amazing job.
Yeah.
So if nobody tell you guys before, yeah man, it looks good. It looks really good.
Like stage setting, everything was really good.
Because of my involvement with tourism just generally, I can kind of see that we have a lot of people that are flying in to be here for Carnival.
That's what I'm saying. So you see the team, you should be here. Like it's really ringing.
Yeah.
Believe me.
So they've started to come. Yeah. You know what I mean? People are reserving, the hotels are starting to get booked up. So I know coming on to like Juve and, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
at any time after Christmas, they're like boxing there and them kind of things. It's gonna be epic.
Yeah.
I don't even know how they're gonna facilitate that. Right? I don't know how they're gonna facilitate that. I'm gonna be on the sidelines because I'm not really a big reveler.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be on the sidelines, chilling, maybe carry out the kids so that they could see.
Yeah, I mean this carnival feels like the one that you really need to come and see. I'm not even overhyping it or nothing like that. Like it really feels that way because from like I said, from the award show to this opening is always it feels like a lot more cultural.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it can't be understated that pent up frustration has generated a tremendous amount of attraction and appeal. People ready for this thing.
Yeah.
Because St. Kitts Carnival has always been one of the better carnivals in the region, I would think. You know what I mean? We have a few islands that have some really good carnivals.
Yeah.
Trinidad, but St. Kitts Carnival has always been really good. Yeah. So I see all the practice. I see everybody getting ready, everybody prepping themselves and energized for it. So it's going to be interesting. But what do you think about the dress codes? Because I saw also the troops, the Juve Morning troops and the people that are, putting these troops together for the revelers to join. The troops them look like they're a big thing. I hear troops sold out, people can get costumes. So, I mean, what do you think about how that's looking?
Yeah, I think the troops looking like they're going to be ram-packed this year. Like ram to the brim, right? It's like I say, it's going to be an event, man.
I saw some of the costumes that they've released, and how the thing set. So, I'm interested in the costumes that they released for the females, because anything else ain't really my speed. Mm-hmm. But some of those costumes, bro, it's just like, whoa. Yeah, that's how you're keeping it.
Yeah, but I mean, you got bit on that wall, though. What does that wall mean?
What you mean, the wall?
Yeah.
You're not saying it's women. Saying it's women are very voluptuous, right? Mm-hmm. And saying it's women have the ability to really go hard when it's time to party. Yeah. You could see it with all the fets them not popping up. But this, people are going to release all the inhibitions. And with those costumes, bro, whew.
What do you mean? You may see some slippage.
I wouldn't go that far. but what I'm saying is it is going to be immaculate. It's going to be epic. You're going to see. You know what I mean? Everything is going to be showcased.
I kind of feel like there's a time and place for everything, right? And when it comes to like some of the costumes and it's carnival, like the event, you kind of expect a certain amount of exposure for some reason now in this modern time when it comes to carnival. Some of it could be a bit uncomfortable, but you can understand, the time and place mystic for everything because...
When you say uncomfortable from the male perspective, like if your partner going in or...
I mean, in general, even some behind the partner, like some of the elders, like looking on and stuff like that, it could be uncomfortable because imagine like your partner going in, but you might have like an uncle, which you're familiar with, your father, stuff like that, like all the people around you, and it's just like they're seeing like in full form, right? But it's a time and place for everything because you could kind of understand that it's carnival. It's kind of expected now in this kind of modern time. And it's not like everybody's zoning into one person. It's like a group of people. But you're going to see things, right? It's almost like going to the beach and your partner wearing a bikini. That's a time and a place for everything, right? Yeah. But you don't expect her to walk around the house in a bikini in front of your friends. But if you're on a beach and she has on a bikini, kind of like, that's the time and place for that.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So
I think what Carnival does to some extent is it creates like a group identity. Right? Because that's what all those troops represent. They represent groups and they have a shared identity in that they're partying for the exact same purpose to support this troop, whoever it is, or this band. Right? So it's like a tribal thing. And the way I look at it is there is a cultural component that seems to overshadow everything else. So girls that are usually modest, girls that usually wouldn't necessarily, behave a certain way or dance publicly. Yeah. Carnival time.
It's like a melting pot.
Yeah, man. You just drop all your inhibitions and you're going to have fun.
Yeah. I mean, and that was, I can remember me and, my partner, like early on we had conversations about like going out and like reveling and dancing with other people, all these different conversations. Like, you know, we had those conversations, which is like sometimes uncomfortable conversations to have.
The dancing with other people.
The dance with other people and stuff like that. And, you know, we kind of had to come to some compromises and understanding it, because, you know, you gotta understand that you can't escape it, and you got to be respectful, because it's just certain expectations, you know what I mean, that you could dance with other people, but when you're in a committed type of relationship, it's like, you know, you have to have some boundaries with certain things that you do. Right?
So what would that boundary look like? I mean, because, so we're getting kind of deep here on this one. Carnival. So let's say your partner enters one of the Juve morning troops, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, they have a particular starting point and they're jamming and they're coming down. While your girl is in the troop, how do you feel about her dancing with somebody? It's like another reveler.
But you see, well, I could say that, you know, our personal kind of conversation, it was kind of, I wanted to determine that Juve is a little bit different to almost like the troop days, right?
Okay.
Because the Juve is a lot less controlled, because everybody like just letting it go.
Right.
You know, everybody getting drunk, like fully and there's no kind of like formality to it compared to the, like, you know, the last lap and
Carnival,
the parade and stuff like that is a little bit different. So that one is a little bit more, you got to be on your P's and Q's, because you just don't know what's gonna happen, because she could be just dancing and somebody randomly just grab her,
right,
like somebody drunk, and it could, you know.
Yeah, but me talking about somebody randomly grab her, you're talking about she's walking, she's dancing, and somebody attaches themselves to her.
But that's what I'm saying.
And she just continues to dance because she in the element.
No, well, listen, like in that happened in some cases, with some people. But I think that women typically have this thing where they kind of look back to see who the person is.
Right.
And they would either shift, right? If they ain't familiar with that person. Some people who like single people, I feel like single people.
You know, I would share a different opinion, because I've seen cases where females, just because they're in the element and they had their drinks and all the girls dancing and they, you know what I mean, they would dance, they would stay in the moment. No, not for a prolonged period. What I see in Carnival happening a lot is a girl who's in a committed relationship, even married women. I see it happening all the time, where they're dancing and because of the atmosphere, the music is loud, everybody is in close proximity. And you know how men move during Carnival time. They're going to just see a bumper and they're going to attach themselves to that.
Yeah.
So a man log on, and because of the atmosphere and the vibe, a lot of women they dance. They might dance for like, let's say even 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and then they shift. You know, they move off, and it's almost like non-attachment. So there's no attachment to the jam.
But you see, that those type of relationships, I can't even speak to them, because they might have an understanding, because she might be doing that because, you know, her partner will be doing the same thing. So they kind of have this, you know, understand that I can dance with people, you dance with people, this is Carnival, and they will just, you know, let go.
Okay.
Some people have that understanding in their relationship, right? But that's a totally uncomfortable thing for me, because some people that take things too far, right? Like, I wouldn't necessarily want to see anybody grab my girlfriend's shoulder and bending over in the road, you know, that type of thing. Because them things do happen, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, like I say, in some cases, some people have the understanding in their relationships, you know, and they look past that. and so, you know, single people do what they do. You know, if they feel like doing that, they feel like doing that. But, because I wouldn't do it. Like, if I go into like a Juve and whatever, I would never like grab a girl and, you know, go all out out of respect for, you know, my relationship. And you gotta have boundaries.
Yeah, and I mean, there's pictures, photos get taken, and, you know, I mean, a lot of people try to capture the moment, so you might get caught in a type of compromising position. And then they just live.
And sometimes you don't even know, like when you're reveling, you don't even know how something looks.
Yeah. So I guess it just depends on the individual. Like, if people, you know, some people are for it and they're cool with that. The level of emotional regulation is fine.
Yeah.
They don't get offended by that. They don't see anything in relation to attachment. So it's just like, okay, cool, you dance with somebody, it's cool. And then there's some other guys like yourself that, you know, yeah, me really comfortable with that fully. So
I mean, it's a really interesting, conversation to have, all together, because imagine you have, cause have some young parents, right? And, they could even be in carnival truce with their children at this point, because,
So like they have like somebody with an 18, 19-year-old daughter.
yeah,
Right.
and, they're partying in the same troop and stuff like that. But let's say he's a young guy, and he see his mom kind of like partying, right?
Ooh.
And she's more or less like, let's say she has a nice shapes and, well put together, and almost like semi-exposed in a sense, because you see some of the outfits, right?
Yeah.
I could imagine that he could feel uncomfortable because his brethren them could be like, yo.
Well, he got to the back of the band and left stay in the front.
You see, they got to kind of create all these conversations to have.
Yeah.
But some people would say, no, me and my mother cool, you know what I mean? She could.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think the vibe is going to be big. I think it's going to be a big vibe this time. What I'm hoping for, though, I'm hoping that the security forces don't need to do too much.
Yeah, definitely.
I hope that people
Don't
go
lose
out,
it.
and understand that, hey, listen, right now, any time for fighting and violence and doing all of that's crazy stuff. It's just like, yeah, we're partying. Let's see, if you're partying, party, and if you have a problem, then step to the side. The bands are coming out, and they usually got like this bullring energy where you just got this dude, this set of
The
dudes
mosh pit.
that's stay in the center, and it's just like this craziness.
Yeah.
And they get involved in it, so somebody would voluntarily go into it, understanding fully well that people just swinging limbs wildly, and when they get hit, then they want to fight. It's just like, what I mean? It doesn't make sense to me. So I'm hoping that we kind of transcend that, we go past that, and people are able to party without the band having to stop or talk to people, both fighting or police coming and locking up people.
Yeah.
So I just hope that anybody that's listening, you don't go into the band to kind of disrupt the energy.
I mean, we could go back a little bit to the same thing we was talking about, like dancing with other people and stuff like that, because maybe I could help somebody out there, in terms of how they think about it. Because that was a real, going back to that was a real conversation to have, for me to gain some understanding, because for me at first it was almost like a no-go. Like, yo, me really into that, me want nobody touch me, woman, like that. I was that type, you know what I mean? But you start to kind of understand from having conversations with your partner, like uncomfortable real conversations too. It's just like, yo, there are certain like friends, like your girlfriend, right? The opposite sex, like your boyfriends, whatever, you kind of come into these relationships and they have friends, they have other like relationships before you. Some is like platonic type of friendships, like the people who didn't know, and there's never been any kind of romantic type of connection with them or whatever. So because you in a band, and the music is loud, sometimes the best way to say hi is to like, jam, then let it see you, and you kind of like wave and then you move off. So you kind of have to have some allowance for certain things to happen in that way that's uncomfortable. I had to get that understanding from having them tough conversations to kind of like break down some of the thinking I had, because before you used to feel like, a violation to me.
Yeah, for your woman to go out and dance with somebody else.
Yeah, I used to feel that, but over the, early on we had them kind of conversations, and again to understand. But there might be an instance where something could look a little way, and you could like raise a red flag and say, hey, you see all this, and to have them conversation, because you got to be like have that real open conversation.
And I mean, those conversations are interesting conversations to have, right? Because it also depends on what the variation is between your value system and your partner's value system, right? Your partner could see it as nothing. Your partner could see it as completely trivial. Like, hey, it's me and my friends, them really and truly are with my friends, and I didn't go and look for anybody. They came, I was dancing. So, I didn't want to be mean or hostile. And I see a lot of women that share that view.
Yeah.
They feel like, okay, listen, bro, he come and, it's no attachment. I don't even know who the person is. Everybody dancing. He come, he dance with me for 5 minutes, and then he move off. I think it's the intimacy in how we dance. I think it's like the gyration and the closeness and the proximity and. I
mean, and some women too. Like some women kind of see a dance as just a dance.
Yeah.
Right, but a lot of men don't really see it that way. Especially with a certain type of woman. Like if you're a woman that you hardly see around. Like the same thing you were saying, that this is the time when everybody kind of comes out. Like people don't necessarily be so public. They come out now and they dance. So a lot of men sometimes they'll have like different values towards certain women, and something they don't see a dance as just a dance, they see it as a little bit more. So you will find times that they might even try to do something a little bit extra more than what they're supposed to do.
I think one of the bigger problems too is oftentimes when a dude get an inch, take a mile.
Yeah,
So
because
your girl dance with him for, let's say, even 5 seconds, because I see girls do that, like I said. You know what I mean? They would just entertain the vibe. So they're dancing, somebody compress on, and it's just like, okay, they give him a little walk up and then they shift.
yeah.
But sometimes when the woman shift, partner just start to trail her steady.
Yeah, and not only that, sometimes you give her my shift and they do my smacker and she asks. I mean, I had a conversation like that before, and it's just like, yo, suppose, you know what I mean, that you as a man, there, in the presence, and you're on this side, but you ain't really like, you just happen to your girlfriend to pass, and you see her, you know what I mean, and then that happened, but she doesn't even know that you're there, like type of thing.
Yeah, them things that cause problems.
You know what I mean? And it's just like, that would cause a problem.
Yeah, that's a problem for sure. But again,
Not a problem for, it cause a problem for.
but so you see, because it's two ways to handle that situation as well.
Mm-hmm.
You could just kind of sit there and tell yourself, but maybe he drunk, maybe he ain't understand what he doing, all of these things. But as a man, that's kind of triggering.
Yeah, that's triggering.
To stand up and watch an next man do that. That's like a violation, mystic.
Yeah, and you know, when it takes like a courageous woman to kind of like sometimes still gotta put like dudes in check. I said that women also got to put some of the men in check.
Yeah.
I've seen that like live before.
But what I've realized is a lot of women avoid doing that because men respond with hostility, and then they don't want to get hit. They don't want the guy to
Get violent.
get violent with them. So they just kind of back away. They're offended. They're deeply offended by it. But what recourse do you have?
Ooh. And you know, and you know, depending on who the boyfriend is, then I ain't gonna have that conversation like this dude did this thing to me.
Oh yeah, you ain't gonna come tell me that because you ain't want me get in problems because you know I would.
But then check it out now. If you see a picture of it now, you'll be like, yo, how come you never tell me about this? You see?
Again.
Yeah.
So I mean, these are the struggles and these are the trivialities.
I mean, but you know, but something you gotta look at it too. Sometimes it's just like a one-time thing, you know. In essence, like carnival is once a year.
But I mean, I know a few people, right, who don't party at all. Like I know a few girls who are introverted, like fully introverted. They don't want to go to any of the fits, but carnival is just their thing.
Yeah.
Like they're definitely going into a troop and they're letting loose. And for a lot of women, that's just their release.
Yeah. Can you remember we had Ozell Martin on the show, and she was saying that she was introverted and stuff like that, but she owns one of the biggest troops
Right.
ever, right? So like you're saying, is that melting pot, you know, where everybody just comes together and they just drop all, like to me, they drop all titles. But you know, do you think that some people get judged based on their positions? Because I'm not seeing kids from my like coming back, and you know, if you hold a certain title at a job, do you think they kind of watch you funny if you just see you acting a certain way in a public space like carnival? Or you think that they allow that to happen?
I think it's kind of subjective. I think it depends on the person, right? So if the individual is generally a party goer and they generally like to party, and you know, you
think they look past that?
You see them around. I don't think they look past it. I think there's some degree of criticism that person would receive, because I've heard even with politicians, you know, people say, oh, he like to party or he like to drink, right? So, and that is a stigma that's attached to that individual. I know other persons, professionals, doctors, lawyers who, you know what I mean, they partake in carnival, they partake, and they would be in a troupe and dance, and, you know, but they have the core group. They're dancing with the people that they go into the troupe with. So they have their core group, and people see them, and then when they're done, it's just like fully professional again.
Yeah, but you see, I guess that's more on the cleaner side. Of talking about, let's say you had like somebody who is like a director or something, like,
Yeah.
you know, hold a position, and they're not doing it like in a clean way, that they really let go. Like you're talking about like kneel down in the streets and stuff like that. You think that?
Yeah, it depends. It depends on how they rock it. Because
But you think they should have you think that they should have a pass because it's carnival time?
yeah, for sure. I feel like you don't have a right to judge them in that space, because who are you to really kind of question how that person enjoy themselves.
So you it ain't really like a reflection, and you shouldn't have no reflection on it.
I don't think it has anything to do with it. Like that doesn't impact your competence. It doesn't impact your ability to do whatever you're doing professionally. This is just a moment in time that, as a nation, we share. You know, I mean, it's part of the collective consciousness where we get together on these particular days every year, and we party. And there's a lot of contribution. There's a lot of different groups that contribute to it to make it what it is. And these people are attracted to it for whatever reason.
So you're saying
they like the music, they like the dancing. So yeah, rock with it.
So you're saying that if one of these days when we have our first female prime minister,
Yeah.
and you see her in the road reveling, and she's a reveler, and she's going ham with it.
Yeah. If generally she is inconsistent.
Let's say she's an introvert and she's a really good, strong leader. Everything is, but she doesn't really go out and party and stuff like that.
I think that juxtaposition would add to the appeal.
You think so?
Yeah, man.
But you don't think people will watch it and judge?
The other side, maybe the opposition. So they would use it as a political football, right?
Okay.
But I don't think people generally would feel that type of way about it. I think when it comes onto politics time,
the other tribe, the other tribe going to think about.
Yeah, they're going to start talking about it.
Because I remember we had that story with that minister. I forget where it was.
Yeah, and I think it's one of them states, and she had twerking or something like that.
Yeah, that one. But we had another lady who was just partying privately with her friends, and that came out and they said a prime minister shouldn't be acting that way.
Yeah, but I don't subscribe to that. I feel like people are people, nonetheless, regardless of what you do for a living. Mm-hmm. And if you're not hurting anybody, and this is something that is almost like a wider community festival. So, we have individual communities, but I'm talking about the St. Kitts Nevis community. This is a festival that happens annually for people to just enjoy what we have here.
Even if you're not commit a relationship on it?
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about a prime minister that's a female that's in the band dancing with multiple people and really letting loose, and that's a little bit different. And I don't think she would do that because they oftentimes have their own personal brand that they are where they need to protect. Mm-hmm. But I don't think putting on the costume and being with a group of persons and partying, no, I don't think that's wrong. Yeah, man, it's straight. Do you think? I would like to see that too.
Yeah, I think you like to see even if if the marijuana is fully legal and you see your prime minister hitting a joint in carnival, how you feel about that?
That one they're kind of sketchy. That one they're kind of sketchy because I think even when they legalize it, I don't think it's going to be legalized for use in public. Right? I think even when it's legal, it's going to still have some. There's going to be a legislative framework that kind of prescribes where you can and can't use it. Because, even though the walls are coming down, ain't getting the same blight as cigarettes.
Yeah.
Right? They can still kind of regulate it and try to say, okay, yeah, you can't do it in this space, but you could smoke cigarette anyway, but you can't do it in this space. But I mean, that's a different conversation for a different time.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't really want to see that.
Yeah, when it show that you in particularly, looking forward to attending?
For carnival?
Mm-hmm.
But weirdly enough, and I got some blasphemous saying this, but I introverted to a next degree. Like my level of introversion is weird in that I appreciate all that's happening. Mm-hmm. I would probably go into town simply because I have kids and I know I want them to have the experience and seeing things and dressing up and,
Yeah.
Because I enjoyed those things when I was small. But, yeah, that's not my thing. Like, I don't really commit myself to going to sit down for 2 hours, 3 hours to watch a show. And I'm not heavy into calypso. I mean, I pay attention to it if I see it on the TV or on YouTube or wherever it is. And I would hear the songs on the radio. Mm-hmm. And I would say, okay, but yeah, that's a really good song. So I could appreciate the art. I could appreciate the creativity. Mm-hmm. But to say allocate time to go and, consume it, that's not really my speed. And that's not a knock on whatever the show is. Yeah. That's just me.
But I'm telling you, right? I know you personally. And you remember when I was at the carnival launch, I even messaged you and asked you, yo, you here?
Yeah.
because it was like, yo, you can't really miss this one.
Well,
So I'm gonna encourage you to kind of like step out of the mall.
to be fair, the intention was to go down.
Yeah.
The intention was to go to it. But then I don't remember when I got home, something happened. I think I had like some emails to respond to, and I'm the type of person when I get in my house is like I gotta make up my mind that I'm gonna leave one time, right? I gotta go home with the intention to leave home. But if I go home and I settle into, you know what I mean, you know that rhythm, where you get in your comfort zone, you don't shower, and you're home. Yeah, but it take a lot for me to leave again.
Yeah, but you should be there. You should be here. You should be there. Trust me.
And I support it 100%. So
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna go out.
Yeah, you
And
definitely.
see a few things.
I'm gonna
this
make
time.
sure you go too, because I'm gonna hit you up and tell you, yo, we gotta check out this one right here.
Well, yeah, I would that for sure. We'll link up and do that and make that happen. Because, like I said, I think this carnival is going to be epic.
Yeah. So far, I'm really impressed.
Yeah, I think this carnival is going to be epic. And it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see if they bring back any of the, you know, I mean, some of those nostalgic elements of carnival that used to happen but don't necessarily happen anymore.
You know, but when I was driving up to the lounge, I came, a little bit late. I had to work a little overtime. And when driving up 4th Street, and I was greeted by masquerades and mummies coming down the street, man, blocking out the traffic, like, you know what I mean? And when they reach into the venue now, next level.
Yeah. I mean, the organizing committee doing a really, really good job, bro.
Yeah.
And you could feel it. Like, you know, it's always so interesting. I could remember as a little youth, when you come on to this type of time, like, you know what I mean, you're approaching carnival, Christmas time, the atmosphere just feels different. There's that festive feel, and maybe it's a function of them putting up lights and Christmas music playing everywhere, and, you know, all the windows, them got a kind of fog effect with the sketches, and yeah, maybe it's a function of that.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just a function of you just know what time it is because the music is different, everybody engaged. You're seeing, if you're not seeing the masquerades them performing, you're seeing them walking from point A to point B because they're heading to a performance. Yeah. Everybody, there's just like a lot of hustle and bustle. Traffic is ridiculous now. Like even tomorrow gonna be like a Friday, bro.
Can imagine.
And it's just a testament to how much people in the place.
Yeah.
Right. So all the rentals them out, all the rentals them on road, everybody trying to find parking. The place just swamp.
You know, and being in the relationship that I am in, right? I get a different type of appreciation for all the work that goes into the carnival.
Right. Because, I mean, you're kind of seeing it firsthand.
Yeah, man. There's a lot of work. And especially, even to the Queen shows. I didn't realize there's so much work. I used to always look at Queen shows as just like, prancing around, nothing serious. I know, man, this serious dedication.
But, I mean, these things are full-on performances. Even something as simple as some of the Christmas concerts, them things take weeks of preparation.
Enough hours.
Preparation. So you could just imagine Miss saying it's all of the coordination that goes into it, the communications with the chaperones. There's a lot of logistics that goes into pulling off this one, let's say it's a 5-6 hour show. This one show, yeah, man, is weeks of preparation.
And, we always talk about like public figures, and when you see people going into these things and being public figures, whether they are like in Soca Monarch and all these different things, and they have all these responsibilities, all these, they have to attend all these different, activities during the carnival and stuff like that.
The carnival events.
Yeah, I could tell people, if you have a partner and if you're the partner, supporting partner, you got to really kind of fall back and just let them do their thing because it's a lot of work.
So allow them to run.
And
just be in the background and cheerleading.
Yeah. Cheerleading.
And just support. You know what I mean? Yeah. Support. It's interesting. I had a conversation with a friend recently, and they were saying the same thing to me. They were saying, oftentimes when you are hard driving, like you're pursuing a particular goal, there is a task that you want to accomplish, some vision that you have for the future, and you're going at it. And your partner isn't necessarily on the same wave. Not that they're not ambitious, but they're just not into what you're into. So this is just your journey.
Yeah.
A lot of times what you just need is that support, like somebody to make sure that they have food there ready for you when you had that hard day.
Yeah.
And you jump in the car with them, it's like food.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Food right there. You know what I mean? So they could consume that meal, and that's one less thing for them to think about. Yeah. I had that conversation recently. I think it was just yesterday.
Yeah, and it's just a balancing, and sometimes you're gonna need it too. So it's almost like you're filling up that tank for when when you're gonna need it as well. If you're an ambitious person as well, right? If you got goals as well, and if you want to be supported on your goals, you gotta support the other person too.
I mean, like I was even looking at the young ladies that are going in for Miss St. Kitts, and when I look at them, I see there's an amount of dedication that's required even for you to go and do that. Because you gotta commit yourself to it, and it's like it consumes your life right up until the show, and then even after the show, especially from our experience, even after the show, your life consumed for about the next 2 years.
Yeah, definitely.
So, you know what
I mean, entering, headed into the show, like before, Nikia went in, right? Before she went in, I had them planned out in my mind, like 2 years, I got to kick back. Because in my mind, I done said, you remember I used to tell you, this is going to be a win. Even though she didn't feel like, she didn't feel that way. Because she had to work to it, and she had these, feelings about it, anxiety and stuff like that.
Well, we're supposed to have her on the show, so we'll learn the kind of, dissect some of that information.
Yeah.
But I mean, I saw it because I was part of the process as well, in terms of, the engagement. And I saw the early mornings, late nights, right there.
But what I'm saying is from the position of like the partner.
Yeah.
You kind of have to just kick back, because if you seeing your person as a winner, you got to calculate by the next 2 years or whatever. Like you said, that part of your life kind of blacked out. So you just got to be willing to kind of just let go and just let be.
But it's crazy, because that's only if you conscious and if you're interested. Because sometimes those things, when you have a partner that enters into these kinds of commitments, right, and that require all of them and more, those things lead to the breakdown of a relationship.
Oh yeah.
Because your partner's so pressured, they're under so much pressure
Yeah.
that sometimes when they're venting about the pressure, it almost seems like they're attacking you. Or they have these expectations of you that aren't properly communicated. And those things could cause like a lot of infighting when they're going so hard at this particular goal. You know what I mean?
Them things, it's going to cause a lot of infighting.
Yeah, man, they're going to cause friction.
It causes friction, you know what I mean? But I always tell people the problem is never really the arguments, is how you deal with them after the fact.
How you respond to it.
Because you're going to have arguments non-stop, regardless to it. Once you're in a relationship, any relationship, professional, intimate, whatever, you're going to have arguments. You're going to have hard talk, but it's how you deal with them after the fact.
But, some people feel like things should be a particular way.
Yeah.
And they are inflexible, unwilling to adjust. And that's the breakdown right there.
That's the breakdown right there.
Yeah, if you're inflexible, if you're unwilling to adjust, or you're unable to see something, recognize exactly what it is, and then allow that to change how you feel about it. But sometimes when something happens in the moment, it's like, you feel away. You're offended, however it is. If you don't have the foresight, if you don't have the presence of mind to kind of take a pause and actually analyze what happened and say, okay, she or he only behaving this way because of X. Right? So, you know what? I'm going to extend grace. All right? If you choose to extend grace, your partner, whether or not they're conscious enough, they're going to appreciate it still. Because, and it saves you, it saves the relationship. Because don't feel the need to fight about that thing.
Yeah, I think that some of that kind of based on a level of trust too. Because you might not get the view, like we're in the same building, but we can have different views, right? You might not see it from their view, but if you have enough trust in the relationship, you could just kind of like let it play out, and eventually you might get it. But if you don't get it, feel free to ask another question. That's how you should feel, right? Everybody doesn't have that, and some people are uncomfortable with that because they see some of these engagements as confrontational and is a negative. But for me, just like I need clarity sometimes, So sometimes I'd ask questions. Sometimes it's timing too, because I think we had a situation with Simon Sinek. I think he was saying that he went to a concert of one of his friends,
right,
and the performance was weak. He didn't like the performance. So when she came down and she was excited about it, and she asked him how he felt about it, and he tell her like,
I'm glad I came.
I'm glad I came.
Yeah.
Instead of telling her exactly, and then he said like maybe like a week or two later, he actually tell her like, you know, about the performance and what he actually felt. But had he told her in that moment,
He would have just deflated the energy.
Yeah.
Because she up.
yeah. So you kind of have to learn a lot of that, you know what I mean?
And a lot of it is emotional regulation. Like you just have to decide that I'm not going to be selfish in this moment. And it's easy for us to be selfish, even unconsciously. And that's something that I realized recently, that selfishness exists on a subconscious level more than on a conscious level. Like sometimes you're doing something and you ain't even realize that you're being selfish. And
You see, and that was part of the even conversation that we was having in terms of like when you value systems, your different value systems can make you be selfish as well. So in terms of having those difficult, because I think a lot of men don't really have these conversations about like with their partners and out there dancing with other people and stuff like that, and it always is seen more like of a violation, if not a violation. They're gonna kind of say, okay, if you do that, I'm gonna do it too, type of thing.
yeah.
But suppose you're the kind of person that ain't want to do it too, like just ain't into that. But then you have to allow some wiggle room, you know what I mean?
And it's crazy when you are a serious individual, like a serious partner, right? So you're not necessarily playful, you're not necessarily light in terms of your engagements with other people. You have a certain set of rules that there's preconditions for your relationship. You know what I mean? Things that you have to, a framework in which you have to exist.
There's a kind of vision of you and your relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
What the ideal is. Your partner might not share that ideal.
No.
And these things require conversations. So sometimes your partner might do something that operates outside of this neat box that you've created, but they don't even know that they're operating outside of the box because we hadn't had that conversation, right? And you get offended, and now they have to justify themselves. And sometimes, and at least this is from my personal experience, I've seen things where a woman would make a move that may offend a man, but she doesn't see it the same way he does. Like, I'll give you an example. Women have this thing about coming off as mean. So they might encounter a gentleman and be, in our estimation as men, overly pleasant, right? They go and they engage and it's big smiles and, hey, how are you? And you know what I mean? And they're engaging and smiling. And in your mind, especially if you're there as the man, you're kind of watching the play and you see how the other man react. And you know in your mind, because you are a man, so you could see the signs, you could tell. Like, okay, that interaction just pique interest. He gonna see she another time and go and make a mystic step.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so you low-key feel offended, but the woman totally oblivious to all of that. She doesn't even know that that's what happening right here. Because for her, it was innocent. I was just being pleasant. I was saying hi.
And it was totally empty. He had no intent.
Bro.
Right? Just to be pleasant.
Bro. So these conversations are required for you to have a healthy relationship. A lot of us don't talk about these things.
And you go back to a little bit about giving respect to, in terms of if you respect your partner enough to have those type of conversations, because they're going to lead into trust and stuff like that. Because some people, trust factor in there. And sometimes basically in the media as well, they always portray us as men being like dominating. So yeah, sometimes a lot of women would kind of like buffer, but push the buttons to kind of see like what it is before, even if they trust you sometimes, to just make sure that you ain't trying to control them for whatever reason. Maybe they had do whether they go up or how they interpret life and stuff like that.
Our previous relationship,
the experiences and stuff like that. So you kind of always have to be, I think they always got extreme sometimes, but it's like a designated driver. You got to kind of realize like who your partner is sometimes, you know what I mean? If they're going to get drunk off of emotions, if they get drunk off of emotions, it's okay, then cool. I got to drive this, drive us home. Because if I don't drive us home, the way that the person responding to me, we're not going to crash us.
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes you got to take the L.
But that's heavy.
But like when Naima said, save it for later, eh?
Yeah.
Not like a last. Naima has said like, save it for later.
But taking that L is heavy. a lot of times it's a super, super, super heavy thing to do, because especially in communication, when you're communicating with somebody else, like your partner, right? It's this insidious thing that happens where when you're in an intimate relationship with somebody, they just somehow, maybe it's the time spent, I don't know what it is, but they just somehow know all the buttons to push to get you all the way upset, to turn you all the way on. And what happens is those communications are required so that your partner knows, okay, this kind of thing don't offend me. But the communication doesn't necessarily happen because we find justifications for our anger. When you're upset, you could justify why you're upset, right? And you explaining why you're upset, like, hey, girl, you do this, and I'm trying to explain it to you, and I'm saying this, and she like, no, that ain't make no sense to me. And you're going back and forth, and you're getting more upset because you feel validated in your anger. So the L now is just taking that step back, like, okay, why this ain't going nowhere, right? I essentially beat in a dead horse, and this is going to lead to resentment. Either you're going to resent me or I'm going to resent you, because I feel like I'm not being heard. Somebody feel like they're not being heard. Who going to take the L? Who going to take the L? You know what I mean? So relationships are so dynamic because you're holding on. I think, I don't remember who said it. I think we were talking to somebody, but you had said it to me recently, where, you know, you got some people who just climb up on a hill and die on the hill. They just go up on a hill and they defend in the hill.
Right,
Nothing on the hill barren, bro. Nothing on the hill. They're up on the hill with the sword and they defend in the hill, and they're gonna die on the hill.
Yeah. You know, I think in a relationship, if you encounter that enough times, right? Enough times, where you don't even come back and have a conversation. Sometimes that could be like, you know, a red flag for you to consider something else, you know, because, you know, it's like, man, I could never really get this point across. Like, you know, in the heat of the moment, you can understand. But I say after the fact, you know, we have a different conversation, different timing or whatever, and it's always this it's like it's not moving. Like, just like, no, you got to reconsider certain things.
Yeah, and it also depends on how receptive your partner is, because you could identify that, okay, this thing gonna be contentious if I address it right now, right? You got a presence of mind to see, like, I want to tell you about yourself, but right now ain't the time.
But you know, so crazy about, you know, with partners, and I think everybody experienced this. You could have the best interests for your partner, right? And you're telling them something that you believe is in their best interest. They receive it totally opposite, right?
Coming from you.
Yeah. But then somebody else telling them the same thing maybe like 2 weeks later.
Yeah, man, and that's an epiphany.
That's an epiphany. And you there, and you would kind of be like, man, like, but
me, tell you that last week.
But then you see, sometimes you got to kind of even pull back on that to a point to see, like, okay, especially if the information coming from somebody you could trust as well. Because that is sometimes there'll be the tricky part in relationships. Because let's say you partner and you have like some friction, and you're telling her what you're telling her. She ain't receiving it from you. But then she always been cool with this other guy at the job, or even a female or whatever. And they've developed enough trust to this one point where he reach a boiling point and expresses that to the other person. And then that attention leads to some level of affection. And enough of that now, like going here to vent to this other person and giving you the feedback. Same thing you're saying, but again from an external source from you. That could lead to disaster, you know? Because here it is that you're saying everything that they need to hear, right? The person telling them everything that is a little bit of want and need to hear.
Well, my perspective on that is, and again, it comes from emotional regulation, right? Because I feel like as human beings, so this isn't even a man and woman thing from my perspective. I feel like we get attached to the reality of us being the ones that taught them whatever the lesson is. And I've now gotten to a place where it's just like, yo, you need to take this medication. It's either you're going to take it from me or you take it from somebody else. But I just want you to get a medication. So I have no attachment to who is delivering the medication. And I find that's made my situation a lot easier in that, okay, you might not be able to receive it from me, but you got a sister who are kind of cool with, and
But that's the
your
thing.
sister like, yo, you need to talk to she about this.
Once it comes, like it's like I say, that's the thing. Like it was a trusted source.
Yeah.
Because they could got a sister, you know, that they trust as well, and the sister don't really have the best interest for the relationship at all. You know what I mean? And even if she know that the sister is wrong, right? Your partner could kind of take, you know, heed to what the sister is saying because that's my sister, and my sister gonna want the best for me too, right? So if my sister saying this, I gotta take it into consideration as well, even if it's totally opposite to what's in reality.
A lot of time too, I think is based on our demonstration too, because what I've found is women like men that they feel comfortable following. Like they want to be able to trust your judgment. Now, that could get slippery over time.
Over time.
And I get that. I understand that. But I think a lot of it is just our demonstration. And sometimes we could fall into traps of over-explaining or getting overly emotional about certain things. Like, let's say you're ventilating a problem or what you perceive as an issue. And you could just hold on that like a dog with a bone.
Yeah.
And you refuse to let it go. And now it becomes less about the main issue, but about your behavior.
Yeah.
How you've been, how you're pressuring her or whatever it is. So it's like all of these different dynamics, you get me?
Yeah, and I feel, well, as you said, that's almost like having a certain amount of power. But the greatest power that anybody could really hold, especially for men who, you know, have a level of competence and they mean well. Like, I'm not talking about the tyrants. The greatest power you have is being able to let power go, because people do grow. You know, sometimes your partner could grow outside of you and wants to have like a different sense of, like a different community outside of you, right? And sometimes you got to kind of just
Pull back. Yeah. And it's knowing when to do it
and
too.
knowing when to do it, right?
So the reality is, like, life is very dynamic.
Very.
And you have to be paying attention in order to kind of make the right moves. And sometimes we could just do things for doing it. And a lot of times people get trapped into what I would call a rhythm, right? Where they have a certain mode of operation. So they're accustomed to do a certain set of things, or they're accustomed to respond in a particular way. And it's almost like that carving stone, bro. And the stone done hard. So they refuse to do anything else. They refuse to look at it from an alternate perspective.
Yeah.
They're almost incapable of doing that.
Yeah.
You're going to lose.
So, I mean, just for the listeners to know, right? This is probably our last show for the year.
Yeah.
Right?
Until January.
And we walked into the room. There's a Christmas tree on the table and a bowl here with some, you know, papers with questions in it. I didn't even know. So I'm going to take advantage of this because we have like about 4 minutes left. So I just mix it up and pull one. I'm going to ask you a question. You didn't even know this was coming, right?
No.
So my question to you is from this bowl. We can do one each, right?
Okay. Yeah. Let me pull one quick.
No, don't pull. No. You stay in this moment for this one first, right?
Sure.
If you could choose any two famous people to have dinner with, who would they be?
Any two famous people to have dinner with?
Yeah.
Who would they be? For me, I think the first person would be Gary Vaynerchuk, because I feel like Gary Vaynerchuk is a disruptor. So for those that don't know, Gary Vaynerchuk is an entrepreneur, and he's heavy on disruption. He believes in disrupting industries and getting in and creating new niche markets, right? So I would like to have a conversation with Gary so that we could look at the local landscape and see, like, yo, what do you think will work? Especially because he comes from a big metropolitan city. He would have some insight into certain things. So I think Gary Vaynerchuk would be the first person. And then the second person would be a man like Jordan Peterson. Just because Jordan Peterson, I feel like, is an incredible thinker. I'm impressed by the way that he articulates his ideas. And, you know what I mean? He's a clinical psychologist, so he has a depth of reasoning. There's one more person that I would choose, but you said two. So.
Yeah. You know, I think I should ask me my question first, because you're going to some, you know, nice explanations to why. I might give something so simple and basic, man. Shall I let you close out the show?
Yeah, so yeah, this is a weird question, but if you could have any animal for a pet, what would it be? Is this question?
Okay, so I guess we gotta think about something exotic then, because a dog is too simple, right? You know, that's a weird question for real. Why?
Yeah.
What would it be?
Okay, so let's do this. I'll answer the same question. You answer the question that you asked me. Any two people for dinner, who would you choose? Any two famous people, who would you choose to have dinner with?
But I feel like the people I want to have dinner with died.
Yeah, even if they're dead.
They're alive?
Yeah, they're alive.
Definitely Nipsey Hussle. I'd like to have a conversation with a Nipsey Hussle.
Okay.
You know, just to chop it up and see, you know, how he maneuver things. I see him as somebody who's very, like, humble and know how to step back and let people, you know, do their best work. And it's kind of having the confidence and understanding the confidence and how to, you know, approach life from that angle, right? Because you could tell, we both know that he's like a kind of real intelligent person, but maybe not the most, you know, like polished in terms of articulation, but he could articulate his ideas, you know, properly, right? So I would say Nipsey Hussle for sure would be one. Number two. Whew. Interestingly enough, right, I think I would like to have a conversation with somebody like Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, even though he, you know, like a comedian, I see him as a very strong entrepreneur as well. And later, on the later side. So I think that you're going to get a lot of, you know, nuances from him in terms of the business and stuff like that. And I think that would be kind of interesting to hear some of his perspective and even bring him like to the local landscape here and see what he thinks, you know, like what could be done. And in what things I could implement.
Okay, makes sense. In terms of the pet, as we close out, I big on the farming vibes. Like, that's something that I want to do as I get older. I would like to settle and retire on a farm, right? So things that I've always been interested is like exotic animals like tortoises and peacocks and guinea fowl, them kind of things. Some reason I like them.
So which one you would have? That's what you would have, like peacock?
Peacocks. I would have like maybe a 2, 3, 4 peacocks and allow them to breed, and you know what I mean? Have like a 2 acres, manicured, wherever. They got their region, the bush and wherever, but they roam in wild, eh?
Yeah.
Because what I would value is if I live in that setting and I come out and I see some young ones walking with like a mother, and just like, oh, I didn't know. He lay egg. I didn't know you get young one. Yeah, I like that. I like that kind of organic flow to things.
Yeah, man, I still thinking about an animal and I can't even come up with one.
Because you don't like animals generally.
No,
on that level.
On that level, like, I mean, I like dogs. You know, I never really thought about anything else. But
so, what breed of dog would you like to have if you were to get a dog? What breed of dog?
Well, right now I'm totally in love with my girlfriend's dog. So
she got what? She got a Mastiff.
And I'm gonna be politically correct right now and not get in trouble. And say, I think it's a Great Dane mixed with, I think, Mastiff.
Mastiff. Yeah. So like a big breed dog.
A big breed dog. And I like dogs that don't bark a lot.
And the dog don't bark a lot?
They don't bark a lot unless it's something. So then you know, okay, then something gotta be outside. There's something going on. So you let me check. But outside of that, it doesn't really bark a lot, you know, and it's very smart. You know, easy to kind of train to a degree, but it's powerful though, man.
All right. And easy just like that. It is now 6:01. So we are at the end of the show. To everybody that stopped in, we appreciate you. All the best for the season. Season's greetings. It's Christmas if you celebrate Christmas.
Yes, sir.
Hanukkah.
Kwanzaa.
Wherever your vibes be. You know what I mean? We support that 110%. Everybody be safe for the season because we're not going to be on the airwaves for the next couple of weeks as we allow everybody to just get fully into the carnival spirit. Take care of your family, take care of each other. Make sure that we could and we enter 2023 in a different space.
Yeah, I think we're going to be back probably by the 8th of January.
The 8th of January is probably the first new show for
Yeah.
the new year. I'm looking forward to the new year, and
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing everybody in good health.
And we promise to get you guys a really good guest.
Oh yeah, man, we got some guests lined up. We got some people that we've been talking to.
You enjoy this year of the
Yeah,
show?
I enjoy the show. I really enjoy the show. I enjoy coming and having the insights, and I enjoy the feedback that we get from people. You know what I mean? People see me randomly and say, "Yo, bro, tap into your show. Love the content. I like the way y'all dissect things, the reasoning. You know, it feels organic." So we appreciate that.
Yeah.
Don't stop. And tap into the social media. He Nuh on Instagram.
Yeah.
But like I said, you've been listening to the He Nuh Show on WINN Media 98.9, and we are signing out for the end of 2022. Merry Christmas when it comes, and I hope to see you in the new year. Good evening.
Bless up.
You found the sound. 98.9 WINN FM.